Hello, and welcome to Highlights of One of Our Conversations With, the monthly series of informal and enlightening conversations between the leading teacher, author, and speaker, Jim Self, and some of today's most progressive and connected teachers, channels, and authors. We hope you enjoy this highlight.
Hello, welcome. Nice to be here as always. And again, this continues to be a really enjoyable experience for me, having the opportunity to talk to some very interesting people that are influencing the way we are moving through this shift of consciousness. This person today, Thomas Poppe, is a very interesting person, and Johanna, his wife, have a lot of very interesting things to present. And when I first had the opportunity to literally just put my hand on this book called The Code, it was one of these internal awarenesses that I know this. This is something that has a lot of value. When Sandy Sedgbeer made that available, it was just like, we have to have this conversation with Thomas. So he was gracious and enough to agree to have this conversation. But let me tell you a little bit about Thomas. Thomas grew up in Germany and has written over 20 books. In those 20 books, there's over 14 million books that have been sold. Very successful author in Europe, and yet his books are not in the United States. The book, The Code, which we're going to talk about, is the first book that has been made available in the United States, and The Art of Timing is now been transcribed into English and is on the way to being in the United States. It's now available on Amazon in Britain. I'd like to just begin to pull some of these very interesting pieces out and discuss them with Thomas here. So Thomas, let me welcome you. Nice to have you here, and thanks for being so gracious to participate.
Yes, thank you for the invitation. Hello, everybody.
So, one of the things that we do in Mastering Alchemy is really become focused on this shift and how to best move through this shift in a level where there's not drama and elegance that allows us to kind of become a little more masterful, as many of these third-dimensional aspects of life are starting to kind of crumble and fall away. The knowledge that you just present in this very simple manner of birth dates, and that Johanna has had all her life available, let's just start there and discuss how you came about this information, how she came about this information, and the grandfather who brought this all into consciousness.
Well, the code and the fact that each number in your birthday says something about your capacities and your talents that you brought into this life, that was an aspect, a tiny part almost, of the knowledge that was lived on a day-to-day basis in this family of mountain farmers in the Tyrolean Alps. Johanna, to this day, doesn't remember exactly when she learned for the first time about the code and the numbers. She grew up with it like a fish with water, and for her it was a matter, it was simply taken for granted on a day-to-day basis. We guess one of the reasons why this part of the knowledge was so secretive was that the Church, the Catholic Church especially, is still very much the boss in those regions in the Alps, even today. And they would have called that knowledge superstition, paganism.
Sure.
And this family would have been shunned. So they lived it, they practiced it, and they profited from it, but no one knew about it. Even myself. I was living already with Johanna for years and years, and we were married, and I had no idea what really special piece of knowledge she has there. The only thing that I noticed was that she had an uncanny ability to memorize birth dates. What I didn't know was that she can see birth dates, as it were, in color and cinemascope, but that came later.
Yeah. How did she first tell you about this? Because in our previous conversation, you had kind of indicated she did make it available.
One day I was like all fathers are, I was desperate about the behavior of one of my daughters, of Daniela, towards the other daughter, Martina, and I thought that behavior really insensitive. I said so to Johanna, like in a sigh, and I said, "Oh God, I can't believe, doesn't she notice that that's really hurtful?" And Johanna simply said, "Well, you shouldn't be so surprised when you look at her numbers. And I thought, what? What do you mean? And I shouldn't have acted so surprised, because Johanna is always full of surprises, and she still keeps uncovering pieces of knowledge to me that she never thought important. But I'm the translator in the family from her knowledge into this world. And so I asked, and from the moment I asked, what do you mean by numbers, to the moment I passed on the manuscript to the book, 2 years went by, because it took me that long to find a form, to find a good terminology. It had to be invented from scratch. There was no visible framework for the knowledge.
It was just who she was.
Yes, it was who she was. You have to imagine there is a 6-year-old girl going to school and being afraid of going to school, and finding on her breakfast table a little piece of paper with 2 numbers on it, and knowing exactly what to do with that piece of paper. And that is put in her pocket and profit from the fact that it will help her in school and with her fear. That's one example of how she grew up with it.
Interesting. There are lots of people on this call. Some have a sense of what we're talking about because we've had information presented on the website here for some time, but others don't. So let's talk very basically. There is a wheel of numbers and colors, and they're positioned in various places, and they all mean something. So you want to do the short version of the explanation?
Okay. Yeah, as I said, it took me a while until I had painted, as it were, the structure of where the numbers go and everything. And Johanna always said, well, the seven is red, and it goes down here. It goes into the south. And I painted and scribbled until this wheel emerged. I can describe it briefly. It's the numbers 6 and 1 are on top, and they are colored black or blue. 6 and 1 are the only numbers in the birth date who have 2 colors, and that's black and blue. Right in the east, you have to imagine one of those zodiacs, where you have a cross. In the east of that cross are the numbers 8 and 3. They are colored green. In the south is 7 and 2, red. In the west is 9 and 4 is white, and in the center you have 0 and 5, and that's the color yellow. The colors, they mean that every number in your birthday is associated with a color vibration, as it were. It would, just as an example, it would help you in your daily life to wear something, an object or whatever, in the color of the numbers that are missing from your birth date. So if you don't have a 7 and 2 in your birth date, that means that you lack sometimes a little bit the necessary temperament, or sometimes you feel as if you don't have a voice in life. Then it's a super idea to wear something red with you, maybe some kind of red stone, or whatever object, or even a red sweater. That would have the biggest effect. Mm-hmm. So each number in this wheel, in the circle with the center, a spoke, as it were, 0 and the 5, each number carries a very definite significance. And it's as if you have a little treasure trove, gold nuggets that you brought into this life, and then you can do something with it. You can even sweep it under the carpet and forget about it, but you also can let it come to fruition, to flowering.
And each one of these numbers and each one of these positions and colors more or less gives you an added opportunity and a strength in particular areas as I look at this.
It's as if they represent a little bit of what you're really meant for in life. Beyond what you think is really good for you, what brings you the most money, the most success, or what your parents have devised for you, or what their dreams are about you. Beyond that, there is something like, we use the word calling, we use the word vocation, and what you are really meant for here on this planet. And these numbers, they give you a sense for what that could be. I could give a few examples if you like.
Yes, please.
What's your birthday? Are you courageous enough to give it to me?
Sure. 1/12/46.
46. Okay. With the numbers 1 and 6 are the numbers that will never let you retire.
Yes, I know about that.
They give you an unending curiosity for all things on this planet and beyond. They give you a visionary quality, especially you have a lot on that station. You have 2 ones and a 6. That sometimes even gives you, from birth, the ability to look into the future. They give you an X-ray for future developments.
Yes.
And I'm not telling you anything new here.
Yes,
but they also give you impatience. Since you lack the numbers 8 and 3 in the East, sometimes things happen too slow for your taste. If you then would work with the color green, then it would balance that high speed a little bit out and would make it easier for you to put yourself into other people's shoes and slow down a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes.
the number 4 gives you 2 right hands, as we say in Germany. They give you a very an ingrained, you have it in your blood. You have the manual dexterity in your blood. If you are entrusted with building a house for someone and you've never done it before, still, after you're finished with it, that house would stand. You wouldn't need a static engineer, or by feeling you would know what to do. And the number two you need for your job anyhow, you need a voice. You need a voice that, be it a low voice, be it very quiet, be it slow, it doesn't matter. You're somebody who is heard, and that's something that can be felt almost from day one. When you, as a child, as a teenager, came into the room and you said something, then you are present and people listen. The opposite is also true. If you don't have a 7 and a 2 in your birth date, that means that sometimes you feel overlooked as a child, and then either you comply with that and you say, okay, fine, then I'm go back in the line, or you say, okay, that's a challenge. I have to make up for that shortcoming, as it were. Mm-hmm. So you have the perfect numbers for your job. Yeah. Maybe you work with the color yellow a little bit. Yellow is a color that you need if you come into a situation where you lack a little bit the intuition necessary to find out what your next step should be. And then yellow would help with that.
Mm-hmm. And what I noticed from both reading the book and looking at my own life in this context is where you don't have, in my case, that 8 and 3 or a 0 and 5, one of the things that if you begin to work with people in those areas and you basically begin to wear those colors, you create a balance that offsets that lack over time also. Is that correct?
Absolutely. That works sometimes wonders. Also, I found it's really funny. Johanna showed me that. She told me that very often the colors associated with the numbers missing from your birth date are those colors that really suit you best in clothing. And I found that true very often. It works. It's unbelievable.
I know people who know me, and most of the time when I teach, I'm always wearing green. It's like the only color that seems to be in my wardrobe. I'm a very boring person that way, but
also, Jim, it probably will also help you to be patient when it comes to students who ask the same question 5 times in a row without understanding, because for that you need patience, and the color green would help you a lot.
Yes, I can hear Roxanne laughing in the background. But yes, I understand. It's very interesting. You know, one of the things that is so striking to me in how this unfolds is every one of us has an internal compass, that absolutely balanced place that is able to distinguish appropriate and inappropriate, that place that says go forward or pause, that internal compass. In this, by looking at all of these numbers, just taking a look at how your life works, the understanding of how to bring that internal compass into balance with this code seems to be just uncanny and very, very valuable. That's my observation. Is that your experience?
I subscribed word for word for what you said. I found that this book has the greatest value for people who were born with their talents and who, for some reason, for environmental influences, parents and the zeitgeist or the media or personal greed sometimes, or just whatever influence from the outside, they have taken that talent and buried somewhere in the basement and threw the key away. And very often, those people very often come in a situation where they are at an impasse in their life because there is nothing there to unfold. They have thrown away the key to what's in their blood and what they're meant for. So they are confronted with this book, and then they have a great opportunity, and that is to listen to that bell ringing when they read about themselves and their own numbers, and they start to remember. They remember how it was at the age of 4 or 5 or 6 when they were moving in a direction that was meant for them. And they did that. They wrote something. They formed something out of clay. They worked metal. They worked whatever, and it rang a bell, and they knew that their path. Or they walked through nature and they heard that voice, and that voice that told them, you are here to protect nature. You have to go out. You have to be a forester or an engineer for our environment, whatever. They had that voice. And then reading it at any age, they can even read it at 70 and have it for 60 years passed by their meaning, their calling. At the age of 70, they can read it and they can say, okay, with the last few years of my life, I'm going in a different direction. Even if it's just a hobby, they read about the numbers 8 and 3 in their birthday, and they hear for the first time that music is theirs. Then they can start by, in whatever way, even just buying a little harmonica or whatever, or by listening to good music for the first time in their life. They can start to go back to that meaning, because that moment something starts within them, and that something, going back to that, what you've called the essence. You had a word for that. Going back to that, exactly. Going back to that will create a vibration, will change that person, and the moment you personally change, it has a ripple effect, and it's felt until the last recesses of this little planet. We are taught that the individual is nothing, and you need power to change things. That's the greatest untruth on this planet. Every individual has a great, great, great power, and if somebody changes, the rest of the world changes.
Yeah. See, what was so exciting about this book, it's all basically a truth in my own heart. Mm-hmm. But what is so important right now is exactly what you're saying. The truth of who you are never leaves you. We
Absolutely.
Walk away from the heart.
Yeah.
And see, so once you see the 8 and the 3, or the 1 and the 6, or you realize that music or beauty is really available to you, but you're missing, it's a natural alignment to the heart.
Oh, yes.
You just become aware of who you are. The other part of this that's so important in my observation is this shift of consciousness is we're all waking up. And what we're waking up to a great extent is not a chaos, but a undefinable sense of what I have been doing is not aligned with who I am, but I don't know who I am. Mm-hmm. And what was so impacting with just the simpleness of this book is it allows you to begin to align with the heart effortlessly. You just know yourself. That's why it was so stunning to me, and so many are waking up. So many of the people that listen to what we're teaching this is a means of knowing yourself in a very, very simple, elegant way. So.
Right. And there is another bonus to it. Not only you yourself can wake up to what you have cut off from your true self, you can also see other people with different eyes. And that provides the basic lubricant for any kind of social life, harmonious social life, and that's understanding. If you look at your kids and their numbers, and you compare, you start to see what kid moves in this direction, more materialistic, more loving this planet in its 3 dimensions, whereas the other kid is more the dreamer and the artist. And you see from the numbers, this is what they brought into this life, and the big difference between the two is natural. Then you can become a very different gardener as a parent, and you can watch your kids grow instead of trying to make them grow. They do that by themselves, especially if they have a 9 in their birthday. And with a 9, a kid, you can sit back and twiddle your fingers and just watch, because they know better than you what's good for them.
Yeah. And that's so important with people today. I mean, these new kids are different. And as a parent, having a sense of how to basically just engage with them in a little different way than how you were brought up and treated growing up.
Yeah.
This body of information is so valuable and so simple.
Yes, and it also helps you to come closer to a question that many parents have, and that is, okay, I was treated in a certain manner, and I know that I didn't like it very much, but I find myself repeating the same mistakes. And this book can help you to stop doing that in a positive way, because if you just force yourself to be different, kids experience that as lying. But if you understand what the basis is, then you can stop doing it and let go in an honest and truthful manner. And that's what a relief, I tell you. It's one of the greatest things. And I found a secret I hadn't known before. In my first marriage, I made the same mistakes as my parents did with me. But the secret here was, Johanna taught me that the moment I stop making the same mistakes that my parents made with me, with my kids, I can heal.
Exactly.
I had absolutely no idea how that process works, but it's magical. The moment you stop trying to give your own ambition on to your kids and your own artificial ambition, the moment you stop doing that, you can heal from the wounds that cut with you, and it works. It's unbelievable. I'm getting younger every day.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. I understand.
Yeah.
Because you don't have that baggage to carry around. And
True. Yes.
And one of the challenges that I'm watching, and this whole next month is going to be very much devoted to this topic in terms of the free lectures that I do, 2 or 3 of them. One of the things that's happening is, as this shift is unfolding and time seems to be going faster and faster, the ability to hold your attention on what is appropriate in the heart when you are trying to please the external world or engage with what the external world is saying, that competing pull and push becomes very, very challenging. And
indeed.
By a body of information like this, the absolute simplicity begins to give you an opportunity to create, and something we talk about all the time, is a platform to stand on that is gracious and kind as well as certain and capable in terms of owning your own seniority by aligning very much with this simple truth that's being made available.
Yeah, you put it very, very beautifully. These are great words.
If you enjoyed this highlight from Conversations With, join Jim Self live on the Awakening Zone Network. That's awakeningzone.com. If you're looking for free tools for your personal and spiritual growth, if you want to be who you came here to be, visit masteringalchemy.com, where you can learn more about Jim, his work, and future guests. Our theme song is Hands of Love by Barry Goldstein. May you experience laughter and grace on your journey home.